name is Peggy Maxson. I'm the Director of National Cybersecurity Education Strategy at the Department of Homeland Security. And I'm going to talk to you today. And how many of you have heard of the presidential initiative, NICE? Tony, I know. There's a smattering of you. But I want to make sure that you're all aware of this because we come bearing gifts. And unfortunately, it's not necessarily funding. But I think what we have to provide to you will really help you. So, one of the things a couple of years ago, when you talk about cybersecurity and you talk about information security, when you think about that, you have been working information assurance for about 20, 30 years. But now it's a new age. It's a completely different age. And when I say that to some of the people who have been teaching information assurance, who have been practicing information assurance forever, they're basically going, we've been doing this since God was a baby. What are you talking about, this being a new career field, this cybersecurity? Well, cybersecurity is a new term, but it really does encompass, in terms of the presidential definition, all. If you operate, maintain a system, if you provide analytics on that, if you're protecting it with information assurance, this is all considered part of cybersecurity under the President's definition. The first time that information assurance or cybersecurity was represented as a national threat was in 2008 in the National Security Strategy as the President evaluates. And this is all because of technology spreading across the nation. Well, you may be aware of the Comprehensive National Cyber Initiative under the Bush administration. It only came to light that this was a real challenge to the country. When the new administration came in, they reviewed everything that had been done. And education was a small sliver of what we're focused on, and we're focused on federally. But when the new administration came in, they said, review this initiative and give me recommendations. What came out of that was in 2009 was the Cyberspace Policy Review. They devoted an entire chapter. One of the things that the Cyberspace Policy Review said was this kind of super secret comprehensive national cyber initiative, which has become public now, needs more on education across the nation. And with that, they devoted an entire chapter to the fact that our economy, our national security, depends on having a strong technology workforce and awareness by the nation. And out of that, we formed the initiative NICE, the nicest acronym on the face of the planet. Okay, so let's, some of these. Do that now. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you a little bit more about NICE, how really nice it is for you all. And then I'm going to talk about the component that I focus on, which is workforce training and professional development. And then I'm going to talk to you about a new web portal that is open to the public and can provide a service to all of you teaching anything regarding not just cybersecurity, but anything that falls under that definition of ICT. This becomes a vehicle where we can all communicate and move forward. When I was listening to those two just amazing briefings this morning, everything that we've built into the portal will help people across the nation to sort of gain, whether it's understanding that there are exciting career opportunities that pay really well and they're in the United States. And that we need to start all that, in the K through 20 education, and that education must continue. I love James's statement about the fact that one of the real values in community college is not necessarily even that associate's degree, but it's that continuing education that is so important with technology. So let's go through these. All right. So NICE. Organizationally, it's a White House initiative. It's led by the National Institute for Standards and Technology. But here I am from DHS. DHS leads 3 of those 4 components. We launched the Stop Think Connect campaign 2 years ago. This is a nationwide campaign. Did I say Stop Think Connect? Yes. Awareness campaign, and the whole idea of this is not just to have 1 month a year that is National Cybersecurity Awareness, but to have all year long, because it's just as important for kids to stay safe online. And of course, we know the basis of Davina's programs with all of that, the 3 C's of cyber ethics, cybersecurity, cyber safety, all of that understanding, but it's also changing a culture of how everyone thinks about their individual roles. We want to get to the point where people are thinking as much about, you know, keeping their virus check on their system open as much as the fact that they lock their door when they leave the house. So again, a cultural change. Formal cybersecurity education, led by the National Science Foundation and the Department of Education. DHS plays a huge role in that component, in which we co-lead the Center for Academic Excellence program with NSA, and we co-lead the Scholarship for Service program, lots of those programs, but we're also doing a lot with extracurricular activities, like combining information about cybersecurity competitions, working with groups like the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, all those extracurricular activities, making sure that they have the materials that they need, again, to encourage all these things. So we play a strong role in formal cybersecurity education. Cybersecurity workforce structure, there's a series of seminars going on, and there will be one out in California. We haven't nailed down the date, probably in the Bay Area, on professionalization of cybersecurity professionals. What does that mean? What do certifications mean? What are the aspects of professionalization? That is coming soon. I think we originally planned for March of this year, but we're working with the National Academy of Sciences to reschedule that. So DHS leads the cybersecurity workforce structure component, and then the 4th one, which is training professional development, which I co-lead with DoD and the ODNI. In cybersecurity workforce training and development, professional development, one of the first things we needed to do was one of the most confusing things that underlied all the discussions that we're having was nobody quite knew what a cybersecurity professional was. When we heard James talk in the last session, he talked about all those different degrees that might lead to these, and the definitions and the job descriptions, etc. Well, we needed a common lexicon across the nation in order to even think about training and alignment and job descriptions and building this career. What the heck was a cybersecurity professional? So we came up with the White House definition, and we stuck to it, and we'll see that in a moment. But those are some of the things. Then underlying this, we had all these pieces, but we're all working together, and all of these pieces needed to come together in a way. So we designed the NICS portal. Well, you'll see it broken out. We're just having some word changes on the actual name. The Deputy Secretary is very interested in changing the name. It's National Institute for Cybersecurity Studies here. Institute indicated to her a permanent brick and mortar sort of facility, so we're changing it to the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Careers and Studies. But this is a mechanism of, a public-facing website where students, teachers, parents, cybersecurity professionals, all walks of life can come in and find a path into a cybersecurity profession, depending on your education level, depending on where you want to be in terms of careers. So this becomes our showcase. And again, DHS is building NICS. We did soft launch it on 14 September, and I'll give you the website. You can open it up right now. What we call it is a soft launch because we want to get some immediate feedback. We're also going to have because we did it right prior to the holidays, we were afraid that it might get lost in the holiday, rush. So at the end of this month, we will have a very hard launch with a lot of media from the department announcing its availability. Now this website, we want to also invite you to come in and help us make it more robust. And so as you look at it, there's a mailbox. You can send in information. Why didn't you include my school? And we'll talk through some of those things. Okay, now I have a few statistics here, but I'm going to jump through these because you've gotten incredibly great statistics. But in understanding this problem, when we first started the discussions at the White House to form the NICE initiative, we looked at what the real problem was. And you know, the United States needs, and I'm going to use ICT. Cybersecurity, my definition, ICT, absolutely love it. But basically, we need those professionals across the way. And we all know that building of those professionals doesn't begin while they're in college. You have to start preparing the field so people understand that pursuing STEM-related fields will lead to careers that are exciting, that pay really well in an economy that is, you know, sad. I love James' graphic for that. Okay, here's another, and again, these are statistics from Department of Labor, and we do work with Department of Labor, and we are working with them to change some of their competencies because half of the computer fields that we're talking about today that exist aren't reflected in the Department of Labor statistics. They're aware of this. We're working with them. So we're working at trying to get this. But given the existing documentation, again, this is from Department of Labor. I love the statistics I was seeing, you know, from other companies in earlier sessions, and I'm certainly going to be using some of those as I go forward. Median wages, again, it's a beautiful picture. Even with the limited data from the Department of Labor, it's just a rosy, rosy picture for various individuals. And all of these slides, by the way, I'll, you know, make available to you. So, okay. What I love about this chart is sitting back in Washington, a lot of the focus, and even within my own working groups, a lot of the focus tends to work on, we've got to get people into the federal government. We've got to get them here. We've got to improve these skills. Well, at DHS, we're concerned about the entire nation. You know, it's as much a national security risk if Department of Energy facilities or financial industries or health sector is at risk. And so when we're thinking about this, when you look at the percentages of jobs in these fields, and again, this was based on the limited data of Department of Labor, 4% federal government, 82% private sector. You know, this is really an important issue for the nation as a whole. So we're not just focused on the federal government. 82% should be our focus. We do care about the federal government. We want to make sure, and at DHS, we want to make sure we have quality individuals doing the job at DHS headquarters, but we're very concerned about the entire nation. And that includes, you know, one of my bosses has this example how he bumped into the CIO for Victoria's Secret. And I throw that out just because our economy and protecting intellectual property rights is very, very critical, whether it be Victoria's Secret or my favorite is I always throw out John Deere Tractor. You know, systems administrators at at John Deere Tractor, we should have some understanding of their abilities and some consistencies about their abilities to protect the network, see what's going wrong, protect intellectual property. So again, nationwide problem. Here's this was a napkin drawing that we did when we were first at the White House. But basically the pipeline, you know, we wanted to make sure that we were capturing the whole workforce. Do you need to have a 4-year degree? Can you be a computer hacker coming out of high school? And can you come into, you know, into the workforce Absolutely. Can you have a community college degree and come into the workforce? Absolutely. Where are those pathways? Is it a matter of, so much of the military, there are a lot of cyber skills that are being taught in the military right now. When they come out, how do they apply those skills? Do you need that degree? Not necessarily if you have that training, but you need to constantly be adapting with professional development. So there are, careers for all ranges of activity. Do I encourage degrees? Absolutely. But, there's a lot of great experience out there that did not necessarily come out of a degree program. And again, I love James's comment about the fact that, such a large percentage of people who come to the community colleges come to refine their skills and get their skills. And I think you're going to be seeing more and more of that because technology evolves so rapidly. We don't know what the next technology is going to be. And yet our skills have to adapt. For every one of those amazing, amazing pieces of technology, when I saw the ear creation thing, my goodness, that is amazing. And, having worked in DoD for years and years and having been in Iraq, prosthetics are just, critical to our veterans. So you look at those technologies, but when you think about those technologies, I also look at it from, the aspect of how that technology can be disrupted by, whether it be an attack, whether it be, financial gain, whether it be, trading of secrets between companies. We've got to protect that information as well. So always keeping that in mind. All right. This is the very, very long definition that came out of the White House report, and this White House report, the Cyberspace Policy Review, is posted to the White House webpage, and the professionals, but basically this says if you operate it, if you maintain it, if you protect it, if you analyze it, you too can be a cybersecurity professional. So in many ways, our definition fits very much with the Information and Communications Technologies, the ICT definition. In fact, there have been many within the White House who have said, maybe we should take this security out and just call it cyber. And absolutely fine with me. They changed the word, I'll go with it. But, because security sends the message to a lot of people that this is just information assurance or the CISO as opposed to the CIO duties. All of this is integrated. When you're building apps at a commercial company, you should also be thinking about the security implications. Okay. So I talked about the need for a definition. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the National Cybersecurity Workforce Framework, but we realized this is a document that we produced. We first looked across all the federal government departments and agencies and came up with a common lexicon. One thing that was really killing us was titles, job titles. Everybody gets very, very passionate about a job title. So we took that out of the equation, and we talked about 31 specialty areas, and we worked through 20 departments and agencies at the government, but then we also reached out to academia. We used the Centers for Academic Excellence. If you're not familiar with that program, we'd love to have you go on to the NICS portal and discover what the Center for Academic Excellence program is and how, if you're a community college, you can actually apply for designation as a Center for Academic Excellence. And that is an NSA DHS program. But the 166 organizations that have come into NSA and DHS and said, I want to be a designation, they go through an application process, and then basically this is a grouping of 4-year, and as of since 2010, 2-year community colleges are recognized as having programs in cybersecurity that link to, they have in the past, to the CNS, what are called the CNSS standards. We're now changing that to knowledge units based on the framework. So at any rate, we produced the framework. If you haven't seen, and I apologize that I did not ship a box of the super slick National Cybersecurity Workforce Framework. I'm looking at Tony because he's passed out many of these, but they're blasted heavy. But they are, what we call the paint chip booklets that focus on these 31 specialty areas. And a lot of teachers are focusing on, okay, these are the functional areas. So you might have a functional area, and I think I have some slides here that kind of explain. Actually, this is what we divided the framework into 7 categories. This one is operate and maintain, but I'm showing you what I call a placemat. You'll have a specialty area, which is system security analysis. This is a function. If you look at an OPM classification, if you're in the government, it lists maybe a typical OPM classification for that. But job titles, you can call the individual whatever you want. And this function could exist in a range of different activities. But we do have job tasks, the competencies, those are the OPM competencies that they link to, and the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are needed. And with this, we have over 1,000 knowledge, skills, and abilities. We started out with, I think, close to 600. Then we went through a year of focus groups with academia and with industry to build this so that, again, John Deere Tractor could use this as well as DHS could use this. Did you send me a file, Donna?
Just X off of that. Or say, no, you don't want to say that very technical.
Okay. So this gives you an idea of the kinds of information. This is posted to the website. It's at www.nist.gov/NICE. And information about the framework, information about the professionalization organizations are on there. This is also on the NICS portal, which the NICE site will point to once it goes to hard launch. Okay, now it's frozen.
Frozen?
We need an ICT professional. Next slide goes into the NICS portal. As we were building out this lexicon became sort of our foundation for a range of the different activities that we were doing. We have taken this framework and we are going around the country when it comes to cybersecurity competitions that are being held. They are now beginning to map their competition, skill objectives to the framework. Universities, as I said, are mapping into the framework. A lot of the K through 12 activities, as we bring up the portal web pages, I'm just going to let you explore the actual portal itself. But there are a range of, information. One of the problems was, okay, one thing that we mentioned was people aren't really even aware that there are these dynamic career fields out there. And there are tons of wonderful practices that are out there. You all have, if you're professors at the community colleges, you all have programs and you might have reach out activities that you might want to be able to share. And there are a million different places and a million different websites that you can do this. So what the framework allows us to do is to sort of map everything that we're doing onto one site. We're not claiming ownership. We want to point to what you're offering, but we want to make sure that the whole nation can kind of see the programs that are out there. If you're a student and you want to understand, I want to be a forensic analyst like Abby on NCIS. And I love to use the example of Abby because when people look at her, minus the dog collar and the piercings, you know, she is, you know, television figure. And I'm told by the NCIS people that they don't have anybody like Abby working there. But I love Abby. And she's kind of a cool figure that a lot of people can relate to. And I personally like her. You know, she is a digital forensics analyst. And that is a super cool, you know, career field. And there is a great demand at law enforcement. In law enforcement, every single crime now has a digital component. And a lot of their evidence, their data, they may not even be able to exploit it locally. A lot of that data is being exploited by the FBI, and you know, when you talk about caseloads and all of that, but there will be a huge demand in law enforcement. Huge demand. When we talked about the health sector, and the health sector has really jumped onto the framework, and I just absolutely, you know, they kind of blew my mind because I was thinking, okay, health, we're protecting privacy, I understand that. But they said, oh, no, it's way beyond that. When you're talking about a medical procedure, and you're talking about a medical procedure that's taking place, you know, in Chicago, but the expert physician is down, you know, in Los Angeles, and is relaying the procedure over, you know, in information media, what happens when that system goes down? You know, that's very dangerous. That's life-threatening. So all the technologies that we're talking about, you know, we're becoming more and more dependent on the fact that our networks are resilient and that we can understand the data. So whether it's the financial sector or the transportation sector or the health sector, there is this increasing need across the nation. And again, I loved, and I've got to get into the detail of where all the statistics came. Oh, good. Ooh. Okay. So we're back to the framework, you know, and so again, what the framework helps us do, helps anyone do, is leads them to careers and helps to build this workforce. Okay. So here's the NICS. The NICS portal, as I said, went live on 14 December. We're working out some kinks. But it is out there. There's a lot of great information, but we know that in this first release, and even when we hard launch at the end of January, and you can pull this up today, you know, it is live and it is open to the public. And the websites will be at the end of this presentation, so you can take all those down. But again, we've arranged this so that we have an awareness page. DHS launched the Stop Then Connect campaign, but there is so much more information out there throughout the nation. And if your organization, or you know of an organization or something regional that offers awareness or a best practice, we have procedures where you can come into us and basically say, will you post our information as well? And there is a process. We're setting up an office that will take in all these requests. And we do have, you know, some standards set up, which we'll make public, you know, about what information can come in. You know, one of the first criteria is that it's based on our definition. You can use the ICT definition or the cybersecurity definition. You know, absolutely, your information would be good for the site. So listing the upcoming events, again, you know, if you have an event that's coming up and it's, you know, because this is for the nation, we want to make sure that this is not a, you know, a select group of, you know, 6 people that have been invited, but if it's an open to the public event that you want to encourage people to go to, you know, you can come in and ask us to post your event. And then there's a range of different activities here on the left. You know, if you are a veteran, there are special pages there that will lead you to programs that will, you know, give you information about what educational monies might be available to you. We've worked very closely with the Veterans Administration on that page, but students, etc. And I'm just going to show you a couple of the pages here that we have on, right, and I could bring this up, but awareness education. Here's just a sampling of our awareness page, which again, has the Stop They Can Connect logo and information, but we also have some awareness tips that are flown in there automatically by our U.S. CERT organization at DHS, and some general information there, but also if you have other programs, and we've worked closely with people like Davina, to bring in the offerings that she has through Cyberwatch and other organizations. And here's just a sampling of the education page. And, again, trying to drive people to, if you're teaching and you want to share curriculum, there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that have established best practices on curriculum. We want you to be able to come in and say, we'd like to share this. Certainly, if you're, some organizations produce that, they're not going to want to share it nationally, but that is completely up to your organization about whether you would like to share it as a best practice. So we really do believe that, what we're trying to do with NICS is to provide a one-stop shop for propelling cybersecurity education through career information. And we'd love for you to use this in a way that helps you to attract students, that helps you to achieve your goals. So, here's your Christmas gift. Holiday gift. Okay. We have some contact information here, but while I'm doing that, I'll open it up for questions. But I also want to mention a few other activities that we have going on in our office. Within the federal government, and this applies to the state governments are becoming very interested in this. Every year we have what is called the NICE workshop. Generally it has been, and thanks to say it will probably continue to be, at the NIST compound in Gaithersburg, Maryland. Unfortunately, this past fall we did not have that conference because of Hurricane Sandy.
I was going to actually ask you if you know when it's going to be scheduled.
And they're not planning to have it again until September, and that's partially because there's such a demand for the NIST conferencing facilities. However, everything that we're doing, there is a FACEA conference that is coming up in, thank you, March. That's the Federal Information Systems Security Educators Association, open to the public, to educators, and we will be presenting a lot of information there. We also encourage people to go to the CISE, the Colloquium for Information Systems Security Educators. So those are a number of large, workshops that we're having. But one of the things that we had planned to do, and actually did do, even in the midst of Hurricane Sandy, which was kind of amazing, was we decided we wanted to make the NICE workshop this past year a lot more interactive and to bring in the student population so that they could play. And one of the things that we did was, within the federal government, we have what's called the Federal Cyber Training Events Program, which is programs that we've been running, cybersecurity-based, role-based training for federal government employees. But for the NICE workshop, we use this same virtual training event, which is a competition, training and then a competition at the end. We actually held that, even in the midst of Hurricane Sandy, and what is absolutely amazing was we held that with, one of our teams was from New York City, and even within, within Hurricane Sandy, and of course it, didn't hit Maryland all that bad, just bad enough to cancel the freaking conference, but, unfortunately it hit New York and New Jersey so terribly bad. And yet we had teams that were participating in this. And again, just a proof of, being able to reach out. We very much encourage interactive learning throughout the nation. And this is something with which you're going to be seeing more and more. And again, how we can use this portal is to, is to highlight trends that we're seeing. And in learning environments, employers, and you heard it from our two speakers earlier today, are looking more and more for those individuals who can come right from, whether it's education, when they come in, that they come in with the skills necessary to do the job. And what we're seeing a lot is the adaptation of labs, of actually demonstrating the ability to do the skills. And this is something that the community colleges in particular can do very, very well. And we love working with, the different ATEs, for NSF, Cyberwatch, Cyberwatch West, to work with you all to bring, whether it's competition or whether it's labs within your organizations, but to really show people that the people coming in already have the skills that they need. And so what are the skills that people need? Well, they're broad-based. And only you guys know better than we will in the federal government. You know who is hiring you, what their preference for skills are. There are some common skills that would be, baseline information. But again, the NICS portal gives us another platform for sort of reaching out and going, these are the skills that are really that much in demand. Now within DHS, we have also been looking internally at the DHS workforce. And one of the things that DHS came out with a task force that the Deputy Secretary chaired was, what are the critical skills, the absolute critical skills that we need at DHS? And one of them was pen tester. One of them was incident responder, etc. And this is all in the public domain. The report is out in the public domain, so you can look at what they consider the 10 critical skills. These aren't all the skills that the Department of Homeland Security needs, but these are the skills that are hardest to hire to because they are in-depth, technology that's needed. These people need to come in. They need to be, reacting very, very quickly. So they have established that. Well, how, as we look at that list of 10 critical skills, how relevant is that to John Deere tractors? Some of it is. Some of it is very specific to DHS. So what DHS is doing is great. Other elements within the intelligence community, of course, they focus on the skills that they absolutely need. But there is going to be commonality across the nation, or there may be areas when, last year when I was out and I was visiting with Oracle, I said, what is the one career field that you would hire, today? And it was a title that I had never thought of, and again, being from the federal government, it was privacy technologist. So what does that mean? The laws of privacy, protecting information, along with understanding that technology. I loved everything that Tracy talked about this morning, and the understanding of how many different career fields are now meshing with this absolute, they have to have this absolute ability to mesh technology in with nursing, with auto mechanics, with, it's all there. And it's all, something that we need to build to. James at one point said that there would be a 20 million, did he say 20 million? I wrote down the number. There was a huge, huge deficit of desired jobs in 2020 that would be technology oriented. And so everything that you guys do on every day, this is going to be critical to the security of the nation. And really, this is an international issue. We're operating completely different. One former director of NSA was also the director of national intelligence, Mike Hayden, said at one point, people were saying, that this is a revolution, that this is the information age, that we've gone from the deterrence age into the information age and all of this. He says, I really compare it more to what's going on now is the development of language, that is absolutely major. When you think about the different way that we will live our lives, how we're communicating differently, how we're designing differently, how we're teaching differently, every single aspect of what's going on with technology is changing the way we live. So, it is really, really critical. We felt with the National Cybersecurity Workforce Framework, the common lexicon helps us to build on that. When you look at the framework and when you go into depth with it and you look at the skills that are listed for each of those functions, you're going to be looking at it going, okay, I need my customer base is X, and I want to make sure that I have people who can protect my network, and I am most concerned about producing high-quality system administrators, or maybe it's people who can build the IT networks or the technology that will go into the next step. Look at those functions. Look at the skills that we've listed. Now, the specialty areas, 31 specialty areas in 7 categories. These, I don't believe, will change all that much over several years. We'll add to them, and we plan to update this on a yearly basis. But things like defense of information systems or protection of information systems is going to be a function that will, be there probably 50 years from now. But the knowledge, skills, and abilities will be changing rapidly. So here again, this is where we need your assistance, looking at the framework, becoming engaged as we do our version 2.0 of the framework next year, becoming part of that dialogue so that we are producing the people that we need for the next generation and this generation. So with that, I'm sorry, I'm going to open up to any questions you might have.
About 4.5 minutes.
Oh, I have 4.5 minutes to ask questions. Yes, it's so great to see you again.
Lovely. I have a two-part question. The first part of the question is, does DHS hire 2-year graduates? And I'm sorry, I'm not throwing you under the bus.
No, that's a very good question. I'm glad you asked it.
The reason is that if you come out with a framework, you are producing KSA units.
Yep.
That is 2 years. If you did hire, it will open up the private sector also to look at the fact that we do that. There is a lot of hands-on skills that is needed, hence the 2 years are providing, yet there is not that base where they say we are hiring.
You're absolutely correct.
And the second part is, when is the DAE 2Y and DAE criteria going to open up? So because of the change that you just talked about, which is working on the training for us, because the centers are willing to help you and help the rest of the colleges here present and across the country to see that they can map to these units. But if the criteria takes so long in coming out, so the August 15th deadline, it really does make it a crunch time for us to even help you try and get people on the first. And then some of them are on that verge.
And this is, thank you so much, because both of these questions were things that I was going to address. I mean, the first one, 2-year graduates. Today, you apply to DHS for any cyber position, you won't even be considered if you have a 2-year degree, not beyond that. We're trying to change that. So that, absolutely. Right now, you can have a 2-year degree. Certainly DOD has, especially with their huge employment of the military, they'll take people without even a degree, but a 2-year, is much more common at DOD. At DHS and most of the OPM, what we call the civilian agencies, there is a regulation that IT professionals cannot be hired at less than, a 4-year degree. They have to, and that's something that we're trying to dispel. At DHS, as we've been looking internally at that workforce, we've taken on that issue internally, and when we take it on internally, we can help move the ball forward with OPM. So is it going to happen overnight? No. But we definitely want to change that paradigm because we're not, the quality people and the people that we need do not necessarily have the 4-year degree upon entry into the workforce. So, thank you for raising that, and absolutely the government realizes that that's an issue. In terms of the second issue, and our MSA colleagues and, of course, the Center for Academic Excellence program is a program that is shared between DHS and MSA. When the criteria has always been linked to what are called the Committee for National Security Systems, the CNSS standards. About a year ago, the CNSS committee decided that they would change their standards and adapt to the framework. Now, originally, we had discussions with the CAE principals, and we talked about methodology, and there were some working groups of how we would affect that change. Then there was an initiative where they said, rather than standards, let's form this to knowledge units that are based on the framework. I'm sorry, Centers for Academic Excellence. The Center for Academic Excellence program, currently 166 universities, primarily 4-year, and then 2 years ago, two-year community colleges were able to come in and apply for the designation, which meant that they would fill out an application and all this information is out on the NICS portal. How you could become a Center for Academic Excellence. There's also a really great website that NSA has on the Centers for Academic Excellence, but they are Centers for Academic Excellence for Information Assurance. They're changing that to to cybersecurity. So you can apply for this designation. This designation doesn't come with funding. It comes with this seal that graduates from Centers for Academic Excellence will have paired their curriculum to the standards, and again, now it's with the framework. But going back to your question about when this is coming out, there was incredible pressure, and they've been trying to work an update on the CNSS standards for several years. They want to make sure that they've got that right. We also had, while we didn't have Hurricane Sandy moving it, it was really a shame that we had to cancel. We have a CAE principals conference every year in which we bring the 166 the principal investigators from the 166 universities together to talk about developments and movement forward. That didn't happen this year, and it was more because of a funding snafu than anything else. But in terms of, I'm sorry, I'm not getting to your point. I know it's going to be a difficult transition because they are going from CNSS standards to this. I do believe that they've given a 2-year. They've told people don't try to redesignate during this transition period, so they're trying to roll that out in a more, deliberate way that will help you. But I'll have to defer to Dan Stein in our office to give you the specific guidelines on that. But thank you for raising that.